It's an honor to have the president of Ukraine with us. We've had a lot of good discussions, a lot of good talks, and I think progress is being made, very substantial progress in many ways. We had a good meeting, as you know, just a short while ago with the president of Russia, and I think there's a possibility that something could come out of it. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks so much, Mr. President.
President Donald Trump sat down with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky today to discuss the ongoing war in Ukraine and the possibility of a ceasefire or peace deal. And as you just saw, Trump seemed pretty optimistic about the prospect of eventually getting to something peaceful. Now, before we get to more of that press conference, let's just talk a little bit about what happened last week on Friday when Trump met with the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. So they met for 3.5 hours. They did not reach a deal. Ukraine wants something different from Russia. Russia insists on a peace deal. So really an end to this war, a final solution to this war. Whereas Volodymyr Zelensky and Ukraine want a ceasefire. They're two different things. Now, Putin does not want a ceasefire because he views it as like a pause in fighting so Ukraine can just, rearm and prepare itself to engage again. And when it comes to Ukraine, there are a lot of sticking points when it comes to a peace deal because they don't really want to give up territory, even though it's very likely they will have to. Now, Trump was criticized for the optics of the event with Vladimir Putin because of the fact that he rolled out a red carpet, he clapped when Putin arrived, and he let Putin speak first during their joint press conference. I personally think that's nonsense. I'm not really buying into, it's bad optics. I think it is a good thing that Trump is trying to end this war. So I want to be clear about that. But here's what upset so many people.
I'm absorbed by this visual of the red carpet being rolled up for Vladimir Putin, and in 123 other countries, signatories of the International Criminal Court Convention, this man would be arrested as soon as he lands. Here, he's being welcomed for a conversation. So the expectations are pretty high for that gift ready to Vladimir Putin.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, our negotiations have been held in a constructive atmosphere of mutual respect.
Now, look, in my opinion, if you meet with someone you're trying to make a peace deal with guns blazing, it's gonna be a little more challenging to get that individual to negotiate with you. So I don't really have a problem with Trump being, cordial with Vladimir Putin. He's not gonna punch him in the face and then expect a ceasefire or a peace negotiation. The real question is, how serious is Putin in getting to a peace deal? And more importantly, how can we close this massive gap that exists between what Russia wants and what Ukraine wants? I'm gonna go to one more video before I go to you, Cenk, because since Friday, both Trump and his administration have faced an avalanche of criticism from both the Democrats and Republicans, including 2 of his former officials. Let's take a look at that.
Trump did not lose, but Putin clearly won. Trump didn't come away with anything except more meetings.
I served alongside the president for 4 years. I know his style in dealing with these dictators. It's the velvet glove, but I think the hammer needs to come, and it needs to come immediately.
Okay, well, both of those individuals are idiots, mostly because Bolton just loves war. Let's just keep that real. But then when it comes to Pence, Trump's got nothing left. We gotta be clear, America has no more cards to play, okay? There's a lot of talk about additional sanctions against Russia. Well, the sanctions haven't been working, clearly, which is a pretty devastating realization when it comes to the power that the United States is able to flex. Now, there's some talk about what's referred to as secondary sanctions on Russian oil, which would, of course, severely limit the oil supply internationally, and that would really hurt ordinary people all across the globe as it pertains to oil prices, gas prices, the cost to transport goods and services. So that's not just gonna harm Russia, it's gonna harm the entire global economy. And that's why the United States has been very slow to even consider pulling the trigger on that. But Cenk, I'm really curious what you think about Trump's efforts in getting this war to end.
Yeah, so I share your sentiment that I'm glad that he's trying, and I don't say that lightly. I'll come back to it, okay? At the same time, I'm harsher on him on how he's handled it. So we are financing a war against Russia. Russia invaded one of our allies and has killed their civilians and taken their land. And that is a country we gave a security assurance to when they gave up their nuclear weapons, okay? So you do peace negotiations. I always believe in peace negotiations, but you don't have to roll out a red carpet for the guy. You don't have to applaud as he's the great president of Russia. No, I'm not applauding anyone that we're financing a war against and that has attacked one of our allies, let alone any country, okay? So, okay, the theatrics of it was terrible, letting Putin speak first. Who cares who speaks first? You say, like, I got it. But it matters in that context because to us, who cares? But in international relations, the host country is supposed to speak first. When the host country defers to the other country, it's a sign of, like, if you've ever seen Planet of the Apes, monkeys do this, like the apes do this, like as an offer of you're the alpha, I am the beta, right?
It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, and that's what Trump did with Putin in every interaction, including this one. And he always, like, whenever Putin's around, all of a sudden his neck goes down like a couple of degrees, right? So to me, as an American, I don't like that. I don't need you to be hostile. I need you to get to peace, but stop acting like such a beta. So, but if you say, hey, Cenk, it's just optics, no problem. The much bigger problem is, guys, he said before the summit where we're inviting him to America, again, some people think that's a big deal. I don't think it's that big a deal, okay? And then Trump said, we are definitely going to get a ceasefire. And that is non-negotiable. He has to agree to some sort of ceasefire, that he's on the road to a ceasefire, right? And Putin goes, no ceasefire. And then there are 5 territories that the Russians are interested in. Putin comes back with, I want all 5 of them, 100%. Trump pushed back apparently on part of Donetsk. I don't know how to pronounce this, sorry, okay? And so, Donetsk.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So that's it. So Trump, brother, if you're gonna invite him here and you're gonna do negotiations without the Ukrainians, you have to meet him head on. You have to say, here's the cards I'm holding, and here's how I'm gonna play them. And no, you're not gonna get 100% of what you want or 95% of what you want. And I'm not gonna let you walk out of here without some sort of concession from you. Otherwise, we look terrible. It looks useless and it looks like you used us for a PR opportunity and then gave nothing in return. And unfortunately, that's kind of exactly what happened. So you can go research it. Did Russia give any concessions to Trump in the Alaska meeting? The answer is a crystal clear no.
Yeah, I don't believe there have been any concessions whatsoever. And the fact of the matter is, there were no concessions because Russia doesn't have to provide concessions. Russia's winning the war.
I don't know about that.
They are, though. They are. And in fact, the reason why the sanctions aren't working is because the BRICS nations have found a workaround to the international banking system known as SWIFT, right? So the sanctions really have not harmed Russia. Look, I don't know what the solution is because Russia and Ukraine are very far apart in terms of reaching a peace deal. I think what's happening to Ukraine and the Ukrainians is awful. I believe, and I do not support Russia. Russia's the aggressor, okay? But you have to look at the situation for what it is. I wish when Russia was backed into a corner early on in this war, the West didn't discourage Zelensky and Putin from negotiating in a peace deal. That was the opportunity for a peace deal, and that opportunity fell apart because of Boris Johnson talking to Zelensky to discourage him from engaging in peace negotiations. And now I don't know what the solution is. Like, this is actually a very difficult puzzle to solve. And I think Trump is doing his best to try to solve it. It's just that he doesn't have that many weapons in his arsenal. in terms of fighting back against Russia, or at least using leverage to get Putin to heel?
Yeah, well, he's choosing not to use some of them.
Like what?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you. So first of all, in terms of who deserves blame, so it drives me crazy when there's two sides and they have no nuance at all. Oh, America and the West is to blame because we pushed NATO to Russia's borders, and the poor Russians had no choice but to invade a foreign country, okay, and take their land. No, yes, we do have some responsibility for that, no question. Is it purely our fault? Are you crazy? No, Russia invaded Ukraine, took their land. Well, if they were just concerned about, hey, we don't want NATO next to us, why are they continuing to take land and kill civilians, right? So are the Russians also to blame? Yes, of course. The majority of the blame goes to the Russian government, not the people, the Russian government, okay? Although, like Israel, you look at the polling in Russia, and they're like, keep slaughtering the Ukrainians. That one also polls at around 80%. So, okay, so it's deeply frustrating when these different countries get into a certain culture where the other guys are not human and you could just murder them ad nauseum, right? Okay, so both sides are to blame, Russia's to blame more. Okay, but let's get productive. What can we do about it? That target the sanctions is super important because the sanctions could work in a country like Russia if you heard enough of the oligarchs, because it's not purely a dictatorship, it's almost a dictatorship with Putin at the top, but there's still business interests that could push Putin. But now they've been shredded for one, because the BRICS are moving around it, meaning all these other countries, China, India, they're not listening to the sanctions.
No, they're not.
Right, and that then encourages the Russians to go further. But the second problem, let's keep it real, is crypto. So now you can just move anything through crypto. So now the Russians are laughing their ass off. They're like, what sanctions, right?
No, it's true, yeah.
Like if you could do real sanctions on the Russian oligarchs, I mean, remember when we took their yachts and they squealed? And that was in the beginning, they were squealing super hard. They're like, yeah, no, not our beloved yachts, okay? If you took their actual money, which we're obviously not doing, right? But Trump doesn't want to do that for a couple of reasons. Well, I get it, but these are the cards he's not playing. One is if you do real sanctions on their oil, that's where they get the great majority of their money. Without the oil money, the Russians are screwed. But he doesn't want to do that. Trump doesn't want to do that because he's worried that gas prices will go up. Yeah. And if gas prices go up, that hurts his polling.
Yeah, and it hurts us too. Like it hurts
and it hurts us. Okay, I got you, but then we're not using our cards. So we can't say we're doing everything, we're not doing anything. In fact, I don't know what we're doing to hurt the Russians. Like, I don't want to hurt the Russians gratuitously, but to provide leverage so that we can end the war, right? Not to keep, hurt Russia for Russia's sake. All right, last thing is, and I know this will drive the Democrats crazy, but sorry, brothers and sisters, I saw Biden, I saw Trump. Biden did nothing to get to peace, nothing. He was like, oh, more weapons, spend American taxpayer dollars, hurt the Russian military by weakening it, make sure they're distracted over there while Israel topples Assad and the Iranian military and does whatever they want in the Middle East. Biden's like, this is all wins. He did nothing for peace.
Biden was the worst when it came to handling this war, especially in the beginning when there was an opportunity for peace. Remember, I mean, look, weakening Russia by dragging out the war and having Russia expend its military capability is good news for a country that might want to do a regime change war in Iran, right? I mean, I don't think that was the main reason for why Zelensky was discouraged from engaging in peace negotiations, but I do think it's a factor.
It's definitely a factor. When the Israelis give orders, that's very, Americans, presidents follow them. Anyway, so in this case, the one thing I genuinely give Trump credit for, as he's bungling it in every way and asking for the rare earth minerals for us, that further complicated things. Yeah, it's not for us, it's for American companies and Tesla and stuff like that, right? So that needlessly complicated things. But for as badly as he's bungled it, he's at least trying, and you could all see him trying, right? And you could say, hey, well, that's for not a noble purpose, but for a Nobel purpose. And he wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Who cares? Good, I'm glad he wants to win it. If he can end the war in Ukraine and the war in Gaza, I mean, look, he gets a two-state solution. I don't care what anybody says about Trump. Okay, that will make him historic. He will definitely earn the Nobel Peace Prize if he does that. But those are giant ifs.
No, he'll
right
never-
now, he's done nothing to oppose Israel.
Nope.
Or almost nothing. And in the case of Russia, he's trying hard, but he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And he's got nothing to show for his efforts so far.
Yeah, and look, Trump has indicated that he didn't expect much from his meeting with Putin, and the real goal was to get Zelensky and Putin to sit down and negotiate. Trump on Monday said his goal is that following his meeting with Putin, the Kremlin chief will sit down with Zelensky to begin hashing out terms for a ceasefire. Although honestly, after meeting with Putin, who doesn't want a ceasefire, he did change his language to talk more about a peace deal. But let me continue with the rest of that. Whether or not it includes him in direct negotiations, ultimately, I'm going to put the two of them in a room. I'll be there or I won't be there, Trump said, and I think it'll get solved. Trump also said the following on Wednesday, quote, "There's a very good chance that we're going to have a second meeting, which will be more productive than the first, because the first is I'm going to find out where we are and what we're doing." Again, credit where credit is due. He seems to really genuinely want this. And today, Trump repeatedly stated that he thinks a meeting with himself, Putin, and Zelensky could be possible. So that's where we currently stand. There is no deal. There still is this massive disparity between what Russia is demanding and what Ukraine is demanding. We'll stay on the story and keep you updated, but it doesn't look good for now. But it is a good news that we have a president that, at least in this one instance, he really does want to end the fighting and the slaughter.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.